So welcome back to Very Cold Lasagna. I'm your host, DylanLasagna. Let's talk a little bit about wrestling, shall we? Because it's been a little while since we talked about it, but yeah, I wanted to talk about something that is coming up in the next month or so, and that is called Survivor Series. And yes, there's a pay-per-view before that called Crown Jewel, but we'll try to review that if we can. But for now, they're starting the little teases towards Survivor Series because that's 3 weeks after Crown Jewel. But I kind of appreciate what they're doing. Starting the teases for both pay-per-views. Even though Survivor Series is a little bit over a month away, and then Crown Jewel is like right there. But that's not my point. My point is that Survivor Series is initially what everyone thought was going to be one concept, but now it's going to be another concept, and then now it's like two concepts into one, which is kind of weird. But here's my thinking. My thinking with Survivor Series this year, my initial thought was that everyone thought that it's going to be WarGames. Last year, WarGames, that two cage structure, two rings, and at the same time, that setup, it was coming back for Survivor Series. But it seems like either now it's like they're either doing brand supremacy shit, bragging rights 2.0, like they did for the last 5 years prior to 2022, or they're doing a mixture of both. So bragging rights, war games. I don't know. It's so confusing. So I don't really know what they're doing with the Survivor Series concept, because as of right now, it doesn't look like, in terms of the map setup, that it's set up for war games. At least for that's how I see it. But the point that I really want to try to make is that it makes no sense to do brand supremacy if they're gonna do war games. Try to mix both together, because they had a simple setup if they really want to do war games, or even let alone a traditional Survivor Series. Like, we haven't seen a traditional Survivor Series match in years, and yet here we are trying to overcomplicate things. Like, I thought, in my opinion, like they easily could have done a war games or a traditional Survivor Series match between the Judgment Day, aka like I like to call them the Judgment Lames, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, JD McDonuts or JD McDonough for traditional terms, and Dominic Mysterio going up against the Super Friends, the babyface team on Raw, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes, and Jey Uso in either War Games or that traditional Survivor Series match. But then it gets complicated because Triple H decides to have Kevin Owens trade to Smackdown behind the scenes, and now where do we go from there? It's like, what? And then now here's another problem. Like, you had this confrontation on SmackDown recently where Jey Uso, after his brother Jimmy invades Raw, even though the brand split doesn't necessarily mean shit, he invades Raw to cost him and Jay and Cody the tag team titles. And then as payback, Jay invades SmackDown to attack his brother. And then security comes in for whatever reason, and then Nick Aldis, the new general manager, kicks both him and general manager of Raw, Adam Pearce, out. And then Adam Pearce is like, let the games begin. And like, what is that supposed to mean? So it's like, huh? Like, what are we going with here? Are we going with like SmackDown versus Raw again? Are we doing War Games? Are we doing both? Can we like get some clarification, please? In the next episode of Raw or SmackDown, like that would help. That would help some. But yeah, I feel like, in my opinion, initially, they're overcomplicating this for Survivor Series. It's like, it seems like it shouldn't be that hard, but then they're making it hard. Like they usually do. So, like I said, it could have been this simple. Like, if they really wanted to do a men's like either traditional Survivor Series or a War Games, It could have been Judgment Lame against Cody and the Super Friends, or Sammy KO and the Super Friends, or whatever. And then if you really wanted to do a women's War Games, which, my honest opinion, there wasn't really much of a build for a women's War Games, but they also didn't have one for last year. But that's not my point. If you really wanted to do a women's War Games match or a Survivor Series match, you could at least done Charlotte, Bianca, Asuka, and a mystery partner, which honestly could have been a returning Kairi Sane, because she's apparently supposed to be coming back, going up against Damage Control's Bailey, Io Sky. You can't do Dakota Kai because she's still recovering from an ACL injury. And then the other two members can be the former NXT Tag Team Champions, Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, because, well, there's nobody else there. And there's certainly no one else to call up right now from NXT. So, yeah, I mean, those were two simple matches that they could have done. But instead, they're overcomplicating it now. It's like, are we doing SmackDown versus Raw? It's like, oh, we're going to just randomly get together, pal. And just join forces. Like, nothing's happening again. Or are we doing something to actually set things up for, like, War Games? I don't know. I'd like to know your guys' thoughts on this, because you got to help me out here. You really got to help me out with this one, because I was hoping, I was kind of hoping that they would just try to make this simple, even though I'm not really keen on the Judgment Day, but just make it, I just want to make it simplified, man. Just make things clear and obvious. That's it. If this was a clear and obvious path to Survivor Series, and yet now they're making it muddied. It seems like now they're going with the Judgment Day, two members of the Judgment Day in the Bloodline, or maybe even the three men in the Judgment Day, teaming up with Solo and Jimmy, going up against, Cody, Jay, and then you have Sami Zayn, and then you have Kevin Owens, and then who's gonna be the fifth member? See, what's going on here? What are we doing? I don't know, man. It's like, what's the point of this SmackDown versus Raw shit if you're just gonna have everybody team up together at the end? I don't know. It's very messy. It seems like it's going to be a very messy problem of going to Survivor Series, but it's still over a month. But it's just could have been much more simple than this. It could have just been much more simple. And I know I'm ragging and complaining, but hey, I'm just being honest with y'all. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this subject that I talked about. Survivor Series potentially being a mixture of War Games and bragging rights, or brand warfare, pal. But yeah, my honest opinion, could have been much simpler than that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Survivor Series, the Survivor Series concept for this year, and let's have a discussion about it. So yeah, this is DylanLasagna signing out of Very Cold Lasagna. Keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge. Your takes on the world of sports. And until next time, peace out.